Alright, this is John Cole with DiscountJuicers.com. Today with another exciting episode for you. And in this episode, I'll be sharing with you guys the top 7 problems that vertical juicers may experience and how to overcome them. This is based on my personal experience using a vertical juicer almost every day when I'm home because I drink juice on a daily basis. It also is coming from the fact that I get a lot of feedback from you guys out there that buy the machines that might have a problem and say, hey John, I'm having this problem, what do I do? Then I have to type a message back, but now I get to send them to this video because I'm going to cover all the major problems that I've run across over the years on the various vertical auger juicers. Now this video will apply to basically any vertical auger juicer for the most part, although there'll be nuances and differences that I will kind of explain on some of these tips. I do also need to let you guys know that I am focusing this video around the Omega VSJ843 today. This is our best-selling vertical single auger juicer at DiscountJuicers.com. And then after that, I might talk a little bit about the Slow Star, which is our second best-selling vertical single auger juicer. I have videos comparing these two machines, and each one has their own kind of nuances, and depending on your specific needs, your wants, your desires, you may end up with one of these or the other. But no matter what, either one of these guys are like the top of the top. These are some of the highest quality vertical single auger juicers on the market. Both these machines are made in South Korea, and I would caution you to watch out for a lot of those inexpensive machines made in China. They're basically just knockoffs. The vertical single auger juicer originated originally in Korea, actually from the same place where the Omega VSJ843 juicer is made. And that being said, there's no device or no product in the world that has zero problems. I would like to say that there is, but you're always going to have a problem with your car, your dishwasher, your refrigerator. Things are bound to happen, but how you deal with those problems once they come up is really, I think, really important. And that's why I'm making this video, just kind of to spill the beans so that you guys could take care of yourself and, not have to interrupt your juicing regime, which I know a lot of you guys get into and you guys really feel the benefits. I know a lot of you guys out there have lost weight, have turned your health around, have gotten healthier, have more energy, have less brain fog, and this is from testimonials that I've received from you guys out there. The next thing I want to say is if you guys appreciate my videos, because I don't know any other retailer that goes to the depth that I do to basically educate and inform you guys about how to take care of problems, comparing all the different machines so you guys can choose the exact right one for you. I don't know anybody who does this, and if you appreciate me and my work that I do, I would encourage you guys to support me so I can continue to do this work. I can continue to make these educational videos online to teach you guys about the juicers, teach you guys about the different vacuum blenders and all the appliances that allow you to eat more fresh fruits and vegetables so I can continue to pay my light bill and buy my organic produce to juice. And, and if you are buying a juicer, buy it at DiscountJuicers.com. And that would help support me so I can continue to do this work, and that it means to me that I'm needed in the world, which I think is really important. And the other thing I want to let you guys know is I would encourage you guys to support me at full price. We basically generally have low prices, and they're comparable prices to other sellers in the marketplace. But should you find a lower price, we are glad to price match that lower price. That being said, I would encourage you to support me at full price so I can continue to do my work and continue my mission of educating everybody about the power of fruits and vegetables. If you do find a lower price, hey, just shoot me a message. Click in the description below. There's a link to contact me. Just send me a link with the lower price you find, and I will be glad to match the delivered price from any other authorized retailer. Please be aware that if you find or buy a used machine, you will not get a warranty, which in the case of vertical auger juicers, I think, is a big mistake because over the years, within the 15 years on the VSJ843 or within the 10 years on the Slow Star, you will likely have some kind of warranty issue, and if you buy it brand new, then you will be covered under warranty. And the other thing is it's important to buy from an authorized retailer. If you do not buy your machine from an authorized retailer, it may not include a warranty, all right? So anyways, on with this video. I use the VSJ843 in my personal home. I mean, of all the machines that I've ever tested out there, this is the one that best meets my specific needs and juices best what I tend to juice most. That being said, every juicer has their sets of pros and cons, and I want you guys to figure out your specific needs, watch my videos, so you can see which one might meet your needs. The reason why I like the VSJ843 in particular is because, number one, it's easy to clean. It's the easiest to clean vertical single auger juicer that I found. It takes me about 3 minutes to clean it at this point. I also like that it puts the least amount of pulp in the juice of all the vertical single auger juicers that I found, and we'll be discussing the pulp in the juice issue in just a little bit. And in addition, I find that it makes the most yield in many situations, not all, on most produce items. Whether that's leafy greens, whether that's, nice firm hard fruits, or whether that's root vegetables. And root vegetables are not the most optimal produce item to juice in vertical juicers or single auger juicers in general, because they don't make actually that high of a yield compared to like a twin gear juicer. So once again, every machine has their pros and cons, and the other reason why I like it is because it is a slow juicer, so it makes a high quality juice, but also it's one of the faster ones to use. And of course, yeah, you could get faster, you could get a Kuvings with a wide feed chute, but then even cutting, certain produce items still need to be cut even despite having a large feed chute. All right. So I guess with that, let's just go ahead and jump right into the 7 problems I commonly see. So the first problem I commonly see, and this has been apparent since the day of the first vertical slow juicer came out, the original Omega VRT 330, and on the older models, and especially the inexpensive knockoff models from China, this is extremely a big, huge problem, is that people will complain, John, my juicer, man, it's making a smoothie, not a juice. It puts so much pulp in the juice. And what is so much pulp in the juice? I mean, that is up to debate, right? If you're coming from a centrifugal ejection machine, that's one of those high-speed machines, like a Juice Man, like I used to have back in the day, or a Jack LaLanne, those machines put very little, like, pulp into the juice, whereas these ones put a lot more, especially depending on what you're juicing, and especially if you have a first-generation single auger. That's why I only like the second-generation machines, which these are both part of. They have gotten their stuff worked out and put less pulp into the juice than the others. But nonetheless, even though the VSJ puts the least pulp in the juice of all the vertical single auger juicers that I've personally tested, it can put even more pulp in the juice depending on how you use it. So the machine's a good machine, but if you're not using it properly, it's not going to work that well for you, right? I mean, just like if you have a boyfriend or girlfriend, right? And if you treat your boyfriend or girlfriend like a king or queen that they are, right? They're going to treat you like the best queen or king, in reverse, right? But if you treat them like a slave, like a peasant, right, they're going to treat you really bad too. And juicers are like that. You got to treat them right. You got to know how to use them, to finesse them, and to snuggle with them at night in your bed. Well, just kidding about that last part. But you just need to know how to treat them and how to use them properly. Otherwise it could be like your worst nightmare, or it could be your greatest blessing, right? And that's what I hope to share with you guys. So, why do slow juicers create pulp in the juice? Number one, it's part of their design. Luckily, this design puts less pulp in the juice. That being said, sometimes I get more pulp in my juice, and I exactly know why that's happening, and I accept that. But many of you guys don't. You have no clue. John, I'm juicing cucumbers, man. I'm getting a really pulpy juice. What's going on? So, I would, number one, recommend you guys watch another video I made called Juice Like a Pro in Any Vertical Slow Juicer. I will encompass some of those tips into this video, but I will not encompass all the tips that are in that video, which are crucial for you juicing and having an excellent juicing experience in any vertical slow juicer. So link is down below to that video, right? If you follow all the tips to a T, right, and I cut greens and celery to a certain size, 1/4 inch, or even better, 1/8 inch or less, because if you cut them 1 inch, that's not what I'm recommending. I'm recommending 1/4 inch, right? So you got to follow exactly what I do, and you'll have the same exact results that I get, right? And so anyways, one of the tips in there is when you're going to select produce at the store, or if you have a garden to select produce from, or the farmer's market, you want to get the freshest, crispest, is that a word, produce as you guys possibly can. Here I have a cucumber, right? I've been juicing these cucumbers straight, and the problem with this cucumber, I know immediately when I picked it up, is that this is not a good cucumber juice. It might be a good cucumber to eat. I mean, it doesn't really have any bad spots, but if you look at that, I could press on it and it like literally dents in. Whoa, this bottom part really dents in. It's really soft and mushy on the bottom. It's kind of like getting old up. It just a little popped a hole there. But yeah, soft and old produce don't juice well in slow juicers in general. So number one, I want you guys to select the hardest, firmest produce you guys can get. When you guys go to the store, right, you want to just, press on your cucumbers, and if they give, right, with pressure, what does that mean? That means they're old. It shouldn't be like that, right? You want to go to a different store, look at the bottom of the stack, try to find nice, firm fruits. In general, if you want to juice cucumbers, I find the English cucumbers that are nice and firm generally juice a little bit better than just the standard Market More style cucumbers, right? Other things that may be old, especially this time of year, because now these guys are out of season. They've been harvested last fall, and the apples you guys are buying now have been in cold storage. And I don't know if you guys see this on the HD camera, but this apple is starting to like kind of get wrinkled. That's a sheer sign that this is old. Most produce stores will pull this off and not sell it to you guys, but you know, some discounted places might. But if you get an apple that's actually started to wrinkle, you press on it and it's kind of like your finger goes into it and it kind of mushes and it's like really soft and has a mealy texture if you were to eat it. This is not going to juice well. It is going to put more pulp in your juice. You could say, John, I bought the juicer. You know, I bought it in September. I was juicing apples. It was juicing great. Now it's March and I'm juicing apples. Same exact apples. They're same Fuji apples, but now it's making a lot of pulp in the juice. Well, that's because the apple, even though it's the same Fuji apple, it's been sitting around in cold storage in an oxygen-deprived environment, and the texture has been getting softer. So to deal with this, you can buy firm, crisp apples, and I don't really care what kind of apple I juice. I just care that they're nice, firm, and crisp so that they work the best and put the least pulp in my juice. That being said, apples will put more pulp in your juice when using any slow juicer. And so the best apple to juice, if you want to try to minimize this, is the Granny Smith apple. They tend to keep their texture a lot better than many other types, especially the Galas. Galas are probably the worst to juice because they have a soft texture and they kind of mush, actually, instead of juice and make more of an apple sauce. So I want you guys to be aware of that, all right? Another reason why there's more pulp in the juice is if the machine is getting jammed and backing up and you're not pre-cutting and or you're feeding things in too quickly. And that's one of the reasons why I do not even recommend you guys keep your pusher, you know, as an option to use, right? When I need a pusher, I'll push using a carrot into the machine. I don't use a pusher to push items in the machine. I know if you come from a centrifugal, you're used to pushing every produce item into the machine. But the amazing thing is about the vertical juicers is that they're self-feeding for the most part, really. You could put a carrot in there, and as the machine goes around, it'll just accept it in at its rate, right? Instead of trying to put things in faster because you're in a hurry or because you want it to go in faster. It's not the speed that the juicer wants. It's like if you're feeding your husband or wife on the wedding day and you're feeding them cake and you feed them one piece of cake and you could see they're still chewing that cake up and you know there's more cake in their mouth and then you just try to shove more in their mouth, right? They can't deal with it, and that's what you're doing when you're using the juicer and you're just like putting stuff in and you're just cramming it in there. Okay, I'm gonna make it all fit in there. Don't do it, right? Let them drop produce in the machine, let it run, look down the chute and make sure that there's nothing left in there. You're not hearing it crunch and still work before you put the next item in, right? If you do this, then there's gonna be less, basically, things kind of being forced through the machine, out little nooks and crannies, and it will cause less pulp in your juice. Another reason why it could have more pulp in your juice, if you have a pulp backup in the outlet port. So for example, like I will be doing later, which you should not do, is I'll be juicing these tree collared leaves with nice stringy stalks, and I will not be pre-cutting them against my recommendations because I want to show you guys what happens. But if you basically get a clog in your ejection port and produce stops coming out, produce is building up inside and it just starts to come out the seams, it gets up, you know, underneath the screen, comes out into where your juice comes out. It comes actually up over the top of the screen into the juice, and your juice gets really pulpy, right? And so this, in my opinion, is like user error. Like you're not paying attention on what's happening. You're not juicing at a slow rate. You're not pre-cutting things. So just using the machine properly, once again, juice like a pro in any vertical slow juicer. Link down below. Watch that video so you don't do any of these things. And of course, you know, all vertical juicers make some pulp in the juice. If you don't like it, invest in a strainer. Many vertical slow juicers, such as the Slow Star, include actually a nice stainless steel sieve that will sieve out all the excess pulp should you not want it. Number 2 problem that I commonly see with vertical slow juicers is that actually when you're using it, besides the juice is too pulpy, is that produce is getting stuck inside the machine and not coming out, right? As you guys are juicing in a vertical juicer, I always want you guys to keep an eye on the outlet port where the pulp is coming out, right? If you're putting produce in, it should always be coming out, right? It might have a little break where, you know, nothing comes out for a minute, you know, 30 seconds, but if you're continually putting things in, especially hard root vegetables like carrots, carrots have a nice fiber that really help push things through, whereas an apple kind of get mushed up and doesn't have a lot of fiber in it to actually get ejected out. You will see it come out, and if it's not coming out, then you know you have a backup or jamming issue. Something might be clogging the little port down there, in which case you should stop and take the machine apart before it gets worse, and the machine may get stuck together, which I'll also be covering a little bit later in this episode. So to prevent you know, pulp blockages jamming the pulp outlet inside the machine, you have to do a few things. Number one, like I said in the previous tip, don't use the pusher. If you use the pusher, you're feeding things too fast. If you just drop things in and let them feed into the juicer's rate, that's great. Number two thing is you need to pre-cut your produce, right? Cucumbers can be cut in half and just dropped in. Your carrots, as long as they're a diameter that will, you know, fit in the feed chute, could just be dropped in. No need to pre-cut those into little small segments. But the important thing to cut is things like the leafy greens, so like the kale, collard, Swiss chard, you know, dandelion greens, any Napa cabbage. You should be cutting all these things because they have strings in the fibers that will clog up the machine. Cut them into 1/4 inch or even better 1/8 inch pieces. You know, not 1 inch pieces, not a 1/2 inch pieces, 1/4 inch pieces, guys. Super important, right? And if you guys don't know what a 1/4 inch is because you're a guy, get out a ruler. Buy a ruler so you can measure your stuff before you juice it, all right? And then another thing, of course, that needs to be pre-cut is this celery. Oh my God, the medical medium celery is out of this world juice, and people are not pre-cutting their celery and having extreme issues with the VSJ. John, the VSJ is the one you recommend, man, for the medical medium, and I bought it and it's just not working. Well, it's because you got to pre-cut your celery, guys. I could put a link down below the medical medium video I did. You can see how I pre-cut celery to juice in the VSJ, and it works beautifully. I've juiced up to 64 ounces of celery straight in the VSJ with no problems, no clogging, no jamming, no nothing, by pre-cutting my celery into 1/4 inch pieces or smaller. So yeah, pre-cutting your produce, super important. And especially, you know, with pineapples, right? Pineapples can be juiced. The core of the pineapple is very stringy as well. I think that's, you know, pretty rare on most fruits. But if you want to, you know, juice a pineapple, you can easily do that. The VSJ is the best juicer I found to do that. Link is down below for how to juice pineapple. So you pre-cut the sides off the pineapple, keep the core, you cut that into little small bits at the end, put it in, and it's going to juice great. I've juiced up to 2 pineapples straight in the VSJ without it jamming using my juicing technique. Actually, that was given to me by a viewer, so thank you for that, whoever you were, if you're still watching. And let's see. And then the last tip for not jamming up pulp so it continually comes out and does not get jammed inside the machine is rotate your produce, right? If you're juicing apples, pineapples, and cucumber, don't just put all the cucumber in, all the apple in, and then just put the pineapple in last. No, you might do that in a centrifugal, and it doesn't really matter the ordering so much. It's a centrifugal juicer. But on a slow juicer, you definitely want to pre-cut things up into smaller pieces so it fits in the feed chute, and then do a little bit of each item. So do a little piece of cucumber, little piece of apple, little piece of pineapple, little piece of cucumber, little piece of apple, little piece of pineapple. Keep rotating through all your ingredients until you're completely done. It's going to work a lot better. And the final tip is make sure you always try to juice a root vegetable in with your juices. There's many root juice recipes out there. If you're trying to do like a mean green juice or whatever, you know, these recipes may have been designed to work great on a centrifugal ejection juicer, but some of these recipes that are out there will not work on a slow juicer without modification. So I'd encourage you guys always to add a couple extra root vegetables to many of the different recipes if they don't have any in there, to include that in your rotation, you know, and then it's going to work a lot better. So you could add things like carrots, things like beets, you could add things like radishes, which will make your juice hot and spicy, but also provide cancer protection. Or if you want really something mild, put in and juice some peeled jicama. Peeled jicama is an amazing food. It has the, you know, prebiotic fibers that feed our beneficial flora, and also that it has a really mild flavor. It's going to add nice water content to your juice without affecting the taste so much. All right, so the third biggest challenge or problem I see people have with a vertical slow juicers is that you cannot remove the top feed chute after juicing, right? To me, this is not necessarily a problem unless you're using the machine improperly and you aren't following the first two guidelines or doing the things right. If you're overfeeding, if you're jamming things up, if pulp's not coming out, then the pulp has to go somewhere, and what happens is the pulp is in the chamber. It basically expands and pushes the feed chute up, which means that when you're trying to turn it to come off, there's pressure on it building up, and then you cannot simply just turn it and remove it like this, right, with your hand, because the pressure is so hard and it literally locks the plastic pieces together, right? And this will happen with any vertical slow juicer. Luckily, the Kuvings company has actually solved this issue, which they shouldn't really need to solve if you use the machine properly, is they came out with a nice wrench. So the new EVO model comes with the wrench here, and you basically just put this wrench on the top, and this gives you extra leverage, basically like a nice leverage. And I'm not the whatever physics major that knows, like, okay, you're gonna get 100 pounds of square torque to pull off this top or whatever, by putting this on. And then when you do that, you can easily pull the top off, right, with the special wrench. Now, other models of the Kuvings, such as the C7000, also have this little tab, and it does not include the wrench. So I heard that you could probably order this wrench from Kuvings to have it as a backup. That being said, should your top get stuck on and you don't have a wrench, or you have a VSJ or a slow star, then basically you're up the creek with no paddle. No, just kidding, all right? So basically then it just gets really hard, right, to remove. And so some of the tips I'll give is, number one, there's a lot of pulp in there. It's jammed up, it's not coming out, so you're going to have a big hard time removing the cover because it's jammed in there. So how can you make this loose? So what I would recommend is you want to take like, whatever, 450 milliliters of water or maybe 450 milliliters of water, or 16 ounces of water straight. You're going to go ahead and close your spout cap, pour the water in there, and turn the machine on, and let the water run inside the machine, and let it run for like 5 minutes straight, right? The water will get in there. It'll kind of like hopefully loosen up the fibers. Maybe if you're lucky, pulp will start coming out the feed chute. Then what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and run it forward, and then you're going to go ahead and run it backwards, right? So you're going to run it forwards for 5 minutes and just hold it momentarily on backwards. As you're holding it on backwards, or once you turn it off, then you could go ahead and try to remove the feed chute, which may loosen up. Oh, and then make sure you drain the water out first. That's very important. So that water might help to loosen things up in there. I mean, the other tip that I'll give is that, you want to just take the machine and sit down on a chair and put it in between your laps. So you basically have your legs in between it like this. So now you have this clamped down with your legs, and then you're on top, and you're pushing down on the top because it's being pushed up by all the pulp and all the stuff in there. You're pushing down while you're turning it to loosen it, right? And if you guys can't do this because you're not strong enough, whether you're a woman or an elderly man or a child, whomever, children should be supervised when juicing. Find a friend, a neighbor, somebody that's pretty strong that could do it, because literally you're going to just have to basically use brute force to get this unstuck. There's basically no other way to do that I've learned about. I mean, Kuvings has that handy wrench, but other than that, you just need to play with it, get somebody stronger, push down, turn it. I mean, you might have to let it sit overnight, soak these. I mean, if you got to do it, you could. If you can't get it off after doing the 5-minute soak, take this whole thing and just soak it in a bucket of water like overnight, then come back, let it drain out, put it back on the top, and then do it. What I do not recommend doing is don't take this off and then try to like get the top off without being on the top of the machine, because then you're not going to have as much leverage. If you have this on the machine, then you have a nice leverage because this is holding the top in place, so you can usually crank it and turn it off, right? So that's pretty much it. So now actually what I want to do is I want to demonstrate actually trying to get my machine stuck to show you guys actually what not to do. For those of you guys that are wondering, this is a nice glass 4-cup measuring cup, actually from IKEA, that fits the VSJ843. Personally, I do not like to juice into the plastic containers that are normally included with the juicers, although I will have the pulp come out into one. So what we're going to do today is we're just going to turn this machine on, and without pre-cutting, I'm going to juice my tree collards that are just straight from my garden. And these guys have like long strings in the stock. Do not do this at home. I'm just doing this to try to make the machine jam up, so then I could try to, get this machine unstuck. And if you really want to jam a machine, you could probably take a couple tree collards or a couple stalks of celery at once and throw them in there, because all these strings will basically get stuck in the ejection port and basically just not come out. To some extent, the machine's good at dealing with it, But I mean, don't try this at home. This is like, I'll put up the warning, right? It's not necessarily dangerous, but you may get your juicer stuck and then basically not be able to get it unstuck. So as you can see, we're making some straight tree collar juice. I guess the other thing is you could use the pusher and try to cram things faster into the machine than it can actually let out, all right? I think last time I tried to make this juicer jam, I was not successful because it's pretty like anti-jammy. But you know, if you juice long enough, hard enough, and you juice a lot of produce, especially if you're juicing a lot, you know, it can jam up on you. And let's see, we're gonna go ahead and put 2 in there. Let's try to put a 3rd. Let's see if we get this to jam up, and then I'll have to use my own tips. So as you guys can see, I'm done juicing those collard greens, and as you guys can see, pulp is still flowing out, and actually it hasn't jammed despite my best efforts. Another thing I want to recommend, if you guys are having a problem with the stuck juicer, is turn the machine on and just let it run. I mean, if pulp is still coming out of the machine, that means it is self-cleaning and getting rid of some of that extra pulp in there for you, which then may make it easier to take apart. Looks like the pulp is still coming out. Oh, and the other thing I want to say is that, you know, in my really old VSJ 843 videos, when I'm using the white machine, which has now been discontinued, you know, there was some challenges with not having as powerful of a motor, or as actually as much torque as the motor should. And I want to let you guys know that as of 2018, as far as I'm aware, you know, there is basically an improved motor that has a lot more torque. So I don't personally have any more issues, except on rare occasion when I'm juicing hard, fat, fibrous carrots. It works a lot better than I had previously shown if you are aware of some of my old videos. Anyways, it looks like everything is stopped. We're going to go ahead and put the spout cap down, turn the machine off, and we're going to go ahead and rotate it. And I mean, for me this time, it just totally came off really easily. Okay? So I guess that's pretty much that. I couldn't jam out the machine to show you guys, but hopefully I've explained it well enough. I mean, basically you just need leverage to get the machine apart if it jams. Fill it with water, let it run a while, push it down. You know, if you got a Kuvings, you can get the wrench, and maybe one of these days other companies will make wrenches so they could, you know, it's more easy to take apart. But basically what I'm telling you is that use the machine properly in the first place so that it does not jam, it does not jack up the auger, and it is easy to take apart every single time. So the fourth problem that I hear about is when you're done juicing and you're going to take the machine apart. If you take the machine apart, like I am now, you'd be like, John, dude, man, there's stuff inside the juicer that didn't get juiced. You know, there's all this pulp that really is getting wasted because it's not getting juiced. You know, if you look inside this juicing screen right here, you guys will see like a lot of pulp still stuck in there, right? And you know, depending on the machine you buy, right, more or less pulp may be stuck inside the machine. This also depends on the produce specifically you're juicing, also how long you're letting the juicer run after you put the final piece in, right? I mean, I let this machine run fairly long until the pulp stopped moving out and no major juice was still coming out, so it actually was fairly efficient at getting all that pulp through the machine. But there will always be some pulp left over in the machine. You know, in my opinion, like the Kuvings that I had here earlier, you know, keeps more pulp in the machine just because of the wide 3-inch wide feed chute. As much as it's good because it's easier to feed things in, you know, it's also bad because in general, most times you're done juicing, there's a lot of extra pulp that basically sitting on top of the auger, on top of the screen, that actually just did not get pulled through or sucked through the machine because of that large feed chute, right? And that's why I preferred like the smaller feature, the VSJ. I mean, this has minimal pulp compared to other juicers. I mean, if you have a high quality machine, it's going to be less pulp. If you have a, you know, cheap machine made in China that's not optimally designed, that they just did a knockoff auger, it's not going to get everything flushed through, right? So to prevent produce from being inside the machine when you're done, I always encourage you guys to have what I call a sacrificial piece of produce. You know, I'll always juice something like a carrot, which is probably one of the most inexpensive produce items you could buy, and juice the carrot last, because then I know all the greens that I put in before the carrot will get juiced, and then the carrot will help to push all that soft fiber through, right? Carrots are also really good, or root vegetables are really good to help push through everything that you are juicing anyways, right? And then you might find a little bit of carrot, you know, that's still like in here unjuiced, but you know what? That's just part of the game. That's just part of how these machines work. Once again, every machine has their pros and cons. And the other, along with produce on the auger still, you will always have also produce underneath the auger. So on the VSJ, there's basically a recessed point under the auger that basically collects pulp. And this is totally normal. Don't be alarmed. John, there's produce under the auger, right? Well, the VSJ and the Slow Star has basically a recessed auger underneath. And this actually helps a lot because the old machines, and especially the machines from China, do not have this recess underneath the auger. And basically, because it doesn't have the recess, the pulp has nowhere to go. It gets underneath the auger, jacks up the auger, which then makes it hard to take apart if you're not using the machine properly. Because you have the recess, this gives you some kind of leeway to, it won't back up or jam as bad because the pulp has somewhere to go before it actually just jacks up the auger, and then you can't take the whole machine apart. So in the end, just be aware that, these machines leave some pulp in there and have that sacrificial piece of produce. I mean, I guess the other thing you could do if you're really concerned is you could fill it with some purified water, let it run, and then just empty that out. You'll have purified water basically with a little bit of juice added, which is kind of nice. And it'll get some of the extra stuff out of the machine, and that'll help also auto-clean your machine to make it easier to clean once you're done anyway. So the fifth problem that I get, actually on a fairly regular basis, is, John, I'm done juicing, and I was able to take off my top, housing, and but then the problem is, I'm then trying to get out the auger, and I'm pulling the auger up, and it's literally stuck in the machine. It will not come out, whether that's on a VSJ or whether that's on a Slow Star. I cannot pull the auger out, right? And so this can happen on rare occasion. I mean, maybe you're using the juicer perfectly. I mean, I've used the juicer, as I thought, perfectly, and my auger is still stuck in the machine. I'm like, what the heck is going on? Why is this happening to me? I did everything right. Well, sometimes it just happens. A produce gets underneath there, you get an airlock in there. I don't know why things happen, man. It just does. So I'm here with a solution for you guys, right? So number one thing I would say is put the machine back together, right? And try the water technique, right? There's some kind of airlock or something in there that's just causing it not to be able to come up. So basically put 450 milliliters of water, 400 milliliters of water on the Slow Star when it's fully assembled, and turn the machine on and let the water basically run around and slosh in there for about 5 minutes, right? This hopefully will kind of loosen everything up and make it a lot easier to disassemble. Then you're going to turn the machine off, you're going to lift the spout cap up, drain all the water, and then you're going to try again. You're going to go ahead and pull this out, and then you're going to try to lift up on the auger, right? If it still is stuck, don't fret, right? It's not the worst thing in the world. It's a harder problem if your top actually doesn't come off. Actually, that worries me more than this, because this is an easy situation to deal with. If the auger does not come out of the bowl, no big deal. What I would do is I would then reassemble it once again, right? And then what you want to do is you want to take your hand on the feed chute as you're taking your other hand and pushing up on where the pulp comes out and where the juice comes out, right? And just pull this whole thing off as one assembly instead of pulling the auger out, right? This is a little bit different way of disassembling it, but it'll work just as well. Then you're going to go ahead and screw this off, which you could easily do because it'll come out. And then what you do is you flip this over in one hand, and then on the bottom here there's a little motor shaft. You push on that motor shaft, right? And now you have gravity working on your side, and this whole assembly comes out, right? And so same thing on the Slow Star. You can do the same thing. If you get this off, and now this is actually a bit harder because it's even more recessed down than that. You can't really get a hold on this to basically pull the auger out like that. Once again, same thing on the Slow Star. What you need to do is you need to rotate this just a little bit to the open, to the side, and then you could just basically put your hands on the handle here, which I like the handle, and one hand here, and just lift this whole assembly off. And then flip it over, put your hand on the bottom, and then in the middle there, you can see the shaft of the motor. You're going to put your finger in there, push that down, the auger will come out, and then you should be able to easily pull out your other pieces, right? So that's the main technique that I like to use. I mean, that's what I would recommend, because it's you don't need any kind of tools or anything. But the other thing I will say is that, I do not recommend this way that I'm going to show you guys. On some juicers, such as the Slow Star that actually has nice rings around the juicing screen. You couldn't really do this on the VSJ because it's not really designed to do that. But you can basically take 2 screwdrivers and basically just pry up the juicing screen. Well, actually, we've got to go underneath here. 2 screwdrivers, one on either side, and pry up the juicing screen. Once again, I do not recommend this, but once again, I'm here to provide you guys with solutions to get your machine apart should you get stuck. But yeah, use that other one. This is just another one, another way you could do it, but I don't recommend it because you may damage your machine if you're not careful using the screwdriver technique. So now we're to the number 6 problem that happens on rare occasion with your vertical single auger juicer, is that you plug the machine in, you're ready to juice, you got your produce washed, you turn the machine on, and it doesn't come on. John, you were just using that juicer, man, it's not coming on, what's going on? I was just using my juicer yesterday, or, you know, I used a juicer last year and I took it out of the closet and I plugged it in and it's not working, all right? This happens to the best of us. Even happens to me sometimes, actually. So, on rare occasion. So number 1, I would encourage you guys to check your outlet, right? Take your juicer, unplug it from the outlet you're in, and take it to another outlet in your house. In many kitchens, they have what's called GCFI. It's like ground circuit fault interrupt. And basically what that means is that sometimes your outlet doesn't work until you press the little button. And I don't know which button turns it back on or turns it back off. So take your juicer to a different outlet that doesn't have one of those contraptions and try it. Maybe it works, and then you know your outlet in your kitchen or wherever you're using your juicer is bad. And that's an easy solution. I can't talk to that. So that's number 1. Number 2, reason why these machines do not work once you plug them in and they're all set up and ready to go is because you didn't assemble it correctly. Even the most well-intentioned person sometimes is not paying attention, or you know something happens and you had the juicer stored, it was working when you put it away, then you put it together and you're not paying attention, you're not lining up all the dots, and then it doesn't work. So I mean, when the machine is apart, you can't turn this on, the motor will not come on. This is a safety feature. If you have the machine partially apart and in the slow star, there's a little basically switch, a standard micro switch that has to be engaged by this little rod inside the juicing bowl that comes down and clicks. So that's engaging it, but then problem is this needs to be engaged once you put the top on. And if you just put the top on any which way, like, okay, John, it's assembled, it's not turning on. Well, I got the top on backwards. You know, this little tab knocks this tab to make this little lever go down, and you can kind of see when you put it in, it goes down. If you guys can see that. Then the machine will turn on properly, and if you even ajar it a little bit, it doesn't come on, right? If it's ajar a little bit, it comes on and it'll go off. So you need to make sure this switch is down on your slow start. If it is all the way down, then you might likely have some kind of other issue, in which case, if you did buy the machine new, would be covered under 10-year warranty, provided, you know, it's due to no fault of your own. VSJ, a little bit different story, right? I've had this machine where I used it yesterday. I go the next day, I turn it on, and it's not working. I'm like, wait a second, John, you're the juicing expert, man. Your machine shouldn't be doing this. Well, maybe I didn't assemble it correctly. So then once again, if you turn it on and assemble it correctly, it should turn on. So this is the housing that I was just using to juice those greens. And you know, you can see it's dirty underneath. But I want to go ahead and grab this other housing. This is my old housing. This is the housing that was on my juicer one day. And I made sure that both these little arrows on the top of the machine, there's 2 little arrows that are both orange that should line up and basically be pointing at each other. They're lined up and pointing at each other. I'm like, man, the juicer's assembled properly and the machine's not turning on, and that's because there is a built-in magnetic safety switch that will not allow the machine to turn on unless this machine is working properly and it is properly assembled, right? So the trick to this is 2 things. If you have a newer machine, right, so the Omega got smart and they're newer parts, although it can be assembled this direction, some people might assemble it incorrectly, and instead of just assembling it correctly where the feed chute is towards the back, people could put it on like, you know, one of those kids with like those hats that are like backwards. You could put it on this way with the feed chute in the front, right? Then it's not going to come on. This is incorrect. And once again, this is correct with the feed chute in the back. And so the old feed chutes will not work either direction, will not work the backwards direction, and this one has a bad magnet, which likely was caused because too much water got in there, so do not dishwash your parts. But also, if you use your machine a lot, sometimes a magnet just over time either, you know, gets weaker or just actually falls out of place so that it does not work. With the newer machines, you can put it on the proper way, which case it works, and then they actually also started putting a magnet on the opposite direction just so that you wouldn't lose functionality of your juicer and they wouldn't have to send you an extra part. So on this machine you could put the arrow the opposite where it should be if you have a newer part, and this machine was made in 2018 with the improved motor as well as this part, and you can put your machine on backwards and it'll start. Not all Omega VSJ juicers will do this, many of them won't work with it backwards. So then how can you tell if it is this motor piece or not? Then you're going to remove your whole top of your juicer, and you're going to take like a kitchen magnet. So I have a kitchen magnet here. The machine is off. It's not going to turn on. I'm going to turn it on, and I turn the machine on, but the machine's not running because this piece is not in place. You're going to take that kitchen magnet and you're going to put it up near this orange arrow. We put it near the orange arrow, and then the motor starts to run. You can hear it run. And then if I move the magnet out of place, it stops. So what does this tell me? That tells me that if you have a top that's in place and the machine's not coming on, that means you have a magnet issue. So I mean, then what you can do is you can put this in place. You can put your feed chute on it, and then you can put your magnet in there, and then it'll work actually for you to get you going. But the proper thing to do if you have a top that's not working properly is to call Omega. You know, this is covered under warranty. This is actually an old top that mine actually went out on me from using from just a long time. And then basically what they did is they sent me another top. So they send you another top, and then you'll be basically back up and running. So this happens occasionally. Maybe you didn't assemble it properly. Maybe the magnet's ajar. Maybe it's not working properly. Maybe this magnetic switch is out. Maybe your motor base is bad. But we want to make sure that if it is the motor base, then you will have to call Omega for customer service to get your whole motor serviced, if it's not just simply the magnet. But in most cases, actually, it is just the magnet, and or you did not assemble the machine correctly. Most people that email me say, John, I was using my juicer yesterday, I plugged it in today and it's not working, and then I say, hey, reassemble the machine, unassemble the machine, reassemble it, taking your time, and then in most cases, actually, it works for the people. So I made this video to kind of go into detail more about the process, sharing some of the tips, especially that backwards hat tip. And actually, you might want to try that now if you have a VSJ. I mean, so you know or not if your machine is working the proper direction. Assemble your machine backwards to see if you have that second magnet in there. Not to say that you should do this, but just to know that you have a backup plan in case your one magnet goes bad. You could always assemble the machine like a kid with his hat backwards, and it will still work. All right, so now we're down to the seventh and final problem with any vertical juicer, or actually any juicer for that matter. And this is not necessarily a problem. I would say maybe it's more of a cosmetic problem. If you like all your stuff looking nice and keeping nice looking. Basically, it's mineral deposits, right? My juicer I use every day, and I didn't clean it yet from juicing the greens, but if you look at the bottom, it really has some nice hard mineral deposits on it from not only making the juice, but also from the hard water that is in my area. I've seen some really, 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 trust me, nasty juicers that people just don't wash, or they soak the parts, and some of these hard minerals from the water literally get etched on the machine. It's so intense and so crazy, and I've cleaned off even the hardest of stuck-on minerals with this next technique I'm going to share with you guys, all right? So number one, hard mineral deposits I wouldn't really worry about because it's just cosmetic. It's not really going to affect the performance of the machine unless those hard mineral deposits are blocking the screen holes. Then that will decrease the yield of your machine, in which case, what I would do is I would take a pin and I would poke all the holes out, poke them all clear so that you have clear, free-flowing holes. That being said, this next technique can be used to take off mineral deposits or stains on the juicers. I've used it many times. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to get a 5-gallon bucket. You're going to take that and fill it up with hot water so that you can submerge all your juicer parts into, right? And then what you're going to use is you're going to use either one of two things. You're going to use Cascade dishwasher detergent. So that's Cascade. You could just get that at the grocery store, or if you want a more natural solution, you could get a product like this called Let Me Shine. And this is actually no more spots and film on dishes and glassware. And basically you're going to put the Let Me Shine in with the hot water and let these parts soak in overnight, right? And then you take the parts out the next day, and then you're still going to have to scrub the parts down, but now you'll find that those mineral deposits will come off your juicing parts a lot easier. And you may have to do this again. You may have to soak the parts for longer than 24 hours. But please be aware, the more you do this soaking technique, some of the detergents in the Cascade and even the Let Me Shine, and like I did make a video recommending another product that I will not mention anymore, those can significantly weaken your plastic parts and cause degradation over time. So I do not recommend doing this except maybe for once a year just to get your machine looking good, or on rare occasion, but do not do this on a regular basis. The proper technique to minimize your stains and mineral deposits on your juicer is to clean your juicer right after you're done using it, right? Don't drink your juice, as important as that is, because you're going to lose nutrition once they start to oxidize and the cell walls of the produce have been broken open and you make the juice. Take the time to clean your juicer. I mean, the VSJ takes me 3 minutes to clean. I know if I put this off and like, oh, I got to do this first, I got to water my garden, I got to take care of this, and I come back, it's just going to increase my time because things are going to harden. It's going to be a lot harder, you know. So I blast the water on, I have a scrub brush, I put it with soap, and I just scrub all the parts down right then and there, right when I'm done juicing, so that no stains or clogs or anything, you know, get clogs in my screen. Everything gets washed immediately right after I'm done, and that's the best way to do it instead of worrying about all the stains and things after the fact. And once again, all the stains and things are after the fact are just cosmetic, and so like basically I wouldn't really worry about them unless it is, you know, getting on your screen and clogging them. So yeah, that's pretty much my last tip for you guys. I mean, if you guys enjoy this episode, I would encourage you guys to support me in my work by making your purchase at discountjuicers.com. It is much greatly appreciated. Also, be sure to like this video if you like this format, like me just sharing my tips and my experience and my customers' experiences with you so you guys can have a better time and more successful time juicing. It is really important to me that you are able to juice on a regular, consistent basis because I have seen the difference in my life and heard the testimonials from many people on how juicing can positively affect your life. And it's not because of juicing, it's because of you're now increasing the volume of especially the leafy green vegetables and other vegetables that you wouldn't normally be eating in high enough quantities in your life to make any significant difference. But juicing literally allows you to do just that. Also, be sure to share this video with other people that have a vertical slow juicer. If you're in Facebook groups or wherever, share this with people so that they know some of these tips so that they could run into less issues when juicing and have a more successful juicing experience. That is really super important to me. Also, be sure to click that subscribe button right down below so you don't miss out on my new and upcoming episodes I've coming out about every 5 to 7 days. You never know where I'll show up or what you'll be learning on my YouTube channel or what new juicers or vacuum blenders or even DC powered vacuum blender that I'll be testing real soon. And make sure you click the little bell so you get notified of my new videos. Also, be sure to check my past episodes. My past episodes are a wealth of knowledge, especially I want you guys to watch if you have a vertical slow juicer, Juice Like a Pro and any vertical slow juicer. Link is in the description below for that video. But my videos are over 500 episodes, are a wealth of knowledge comparing and contrasting different style juicers to one another so that you guys could choose and select the right juicer for you based on all the knowledge that I share in my videos. So with that, my name is John Kohler with discountjuicers.com. Be sure to visit discountjuicers.com/YouTube for special promotional offers for our YouTube visitors.